Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us tonight for our monthly live stream, Kankakee Chats. Every month, I host a live stream to give community updates, and we have been enjoying guests throughout our community. So joining me tonight, we have a very special guest, Patricia Santorio Moran. She's going to share more about some holiday traditions in the Latinx communities and a special recipe. So I want you all to stick around tonight for that. And let's say hi to Patricia.
Hey everyone.
I want to thank you all for tuning in and for being flexible. If this year has not taught us anything else, is that we have to adapt to the times. And so, of course, Thanksgiving holiday is this Thursday when we would normally be broadcasting our live stream. So we're doing it tonight. So thanks for making the adjustment, and thanks for tuning in. We will go ahead and start with city updates. So, COVID-19, the state of Illinois is now under Tier 3 mitigations, and that began on Friday, November 20th, due to the spike in COVID-19 cases across the state. I do want to note that the city of Kankakee is in Region 7, which is Kankakee and Will counties. Our positivity rate has been hovering at about 20%, which is extremely high. So, we are continuing to encourage everyone to follow the industry guidelines as a business owner in terms of cleaning and social distancing, and to make sure that we wear masks and frequently wash our hands. There are some resources that are still available for our business owners. The BIG grant, which is the Business Interruption grant, is a $636 million program the governor created with the General Assembly to assist small business owners during COVID-19. The funding can be used to help with capital expenses, rent, utilities, payroll costs, and other operational expenses. And this information is listed on the website. There's also $220 million available in the second round of funding. More information, again, is posted on our website. If you go to PSA Public Service Announcements, you can find that information there. I'm also really pleased to announce that we have some additional funding for the Bounce Back Kankakee program. So I want to encourage you to make sure that you're on the lookout for more information on our website and social media platforms. And that is administered through the ECDA department under Barbie Brewer-Watson. On Tuesday, December 8th, there will be a webinar session dedicated to the City of Kankakee local businesses providing information on the Illinois Business Interruption Grant, the BIG grant. They're going to be discussing the grant, the pivoting business strategies, and local resources. So you need to tune in. We're going to be hosting that through our partnership with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, Decor or DCEO. You can register for this event online with the city through the city's website, which is www.citykankakee-il.gov. Again, I want to just remind everyone to follow social distancing guidelines. Health professionals are urging us to be mindful of gatherings for the holidays, as we know that most families do gather. And for the rest of the year, City Council and all committee meetings will remain virtual on Zoom. And that is to make sure that we keep crowds limited. Any meeting that you would like to participate in, you can submit public comments up to 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. And the email to submit is publiccomment@citykankakee-il.gov. In regard to technology, we have introduced ShotSpotter. So our Kankakee Police Department had a presentation at the last City Council meeting. We had a representative from ShotSpotter that talked about the program, and the technology has been installed. It is a gunshot detection and alert system, and is monitored 24/7 so that the police are notified immediately and they can pinpoint the exact location of where shots are being fired. The new system went live on Monday, November 9th. and we did secure a grant to pay for it, about $48,000. So really grateful for the work Chief Cosman did on this. ShopSpotter is used in more than 100 cities across our nation, and we are really proud to be one as well. Also, in regard to the police department, I want to thank them and give a special shout out to Melvina Calvin. She organized the trunk and treat this year, and we had more than 300 cars come through. The kids had a lot of fun, and I also want to thank our public library that had an event the same night. So we sent people from here over to the public library, and the kids doubled up on their candy. So we had a good time with that, and again, want to thank our Kankakee Police Department and especially Melvina Calvin for her organization of this event. So even though we are in a pandemic, there are still good things happening in our city, and one of those things is that we had another business open in downtown Kankakee in the First Ward, the Swanky Home Decor store. And I went in personally and spoke with the owner. Her name is Anna. She's a wonderful lady, and it's a really cute store. It's very unique. So if you see an item in there, you may want to purchase it because she doesn't have a lot of the same items. It's more of a boutique type store. She started her business online, she told me, and she's grown, and she's really excited to be here. We're excited to have her. So we welcome Anna and the Swanky Home to the city of Kankakee, and we encourage you guys to check her out when you start your shopping. She is located in the Burfield in Remington, formerly known as the Majestic Theater, and that's at 150 North Schuyler Avenue. So again, check her out. She did list her business hours as Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then she's open on Saturday from 10 to 3 p.m. And again, you can follow her on Facebook and Instagram, The Swanky Home. Another exciting thing happening in the city is our Jewel Osco store. So I have been a Kankakee resident my whole life. And many years ago, we lost the Osco portion of Jewel on Washington Street. And that store has not seen any renovations in a very long time. So as we have adopted the Riverfront Master Plan, that plan is 4.5 miles of riverfront property. The Jewel store is in the footprint of that, and I really wanted to reach out to them to let them know that we had all this development happening, not only with the riverfront, but also looking to get apartments in downtown Kankakee, which is going to drive people to businesses. So I had a conversation with their team, and they were very responsive, and they have invested almost $600,000 into the new store. So if you have not been to the Kankakee Jewel, it is a treat. I encourage you to go over. We had a ribbon cutting last week. I want to thank the Jewel team, our city team, and Angela Murray from the Chamber of Commerce who helped coordinate the ribbon cutting for the re-grand opening. We did take a tour of the store, and some of the new renovations include new flooring on the perimeter, LED lighting. They changed the layout of the store, and there's display improvements and more. There's also some work that's been done on the outside with lighting, the parking lot, and planting. So it looks very nice, and I think it's a store that we all can be proud of in our community, and I think it reflects the dignity that we all deserve when we go shopping. So again, thanks to Jewel. Economic development, even though we're in a pandemic, it has always been and will remain a priority in this administration. And we're going to continue to look at how we can help attract businesses to our city, but also to retain the ones we have and help them grow. Veterans Day, a couple weeks ago, want to thank everybody who contributed. We held a veterans drive in partnership with the Mantino Veterans Home, and also Project Headspace and Timing. So we collected sweatshirts and snacks for our veterans, and I participated in a video recording to our veterans. And while I am not personally a veteran, I am the daughter of a veteran. My father was a Vietnam veteran in the Army, And several of my siblings have went into the armed forces, including my son as well, several uncles. So a lot of people in my family are in the military or have served in the military. And it is a sacrifice, their service. It's a sacrifice for the families, particularly when they're in conflict and being sent overseas. So I just want to thank all of our veterans and their families. And again, thank the Mantino Veterans Home. The employees out there do a really good job of taking care of our veterans. We were told that they haven't really been able to have visitors since the pandemic started in March. So this has really meant a lot to them to be able to see that the community had not forgotten them. And I also want to give a special thank you to Carolyn and Roscoe Butler. They made handmade cards for our veterans, beautiful cards. And Alderwoman Malone Marshall and Alderman Mike Prude, who accompanied us to visit and drop off the items. Okay, so it looks like we have, a lot of people tuning in to say hello. Holiday meals. You can now register for a free Christmas dinner catered by the Bennett Curtis House. All meals will be carry out only this year due to the pandemic. You can call 815-614-2697 to register. The deadline is Wednesday, December 23rd. So you do need to RSVP if you want a Christmas dinner. Again, that number is 815-614-2697. The flyer was shared today from the city and it will be on our website. They will have 7 locations throughout Kankakee County. So be sure to check out our website and social media. Last year I started an event that I was really excited about for December called Christmas in the Chamber. And we had kids here last year in the chamber. They had a special visit from the North Pole. We had coloring books and candy, and I read them a story. I love to read to kids. So because of COVID-19, we are not going to be able to gather in the chamber this year. And so our team came up with the idea to do a Love My City, Love My Recipes, holiday style. So today we released some information. We kicked off our Love My City, Love My Recipe campaign. And what we're asking is that you all share your favorite holiday recipes with us. One of the things that is unique about Kankakee is that we have generations of families here. And so I know we have a lot of good cooks in our community. So we're encouraging you to submit your recipes on our website. Again, www.citykankakee-il.gov. And you can submit those recipes today through Monday, December 21st. So the best part of this is that we are going to compile all the recipes into a downloadable and free, one of my favorite words in the English dictionary, free ebook for the community. And the ebook will be available to download by Christmas Eve. So any community members who participate, residents of Kankakee, will receive an entry into a drawing for $50 gift card at one of our local grocery stores. So we are encouraging you to participate. We are looking forward to seeing your recipes and even trying some out with our own families. So some check and see here. Okay. I want to mention that because of the holidays this week, the city offices will be closed, the administrative offices, on Thursday and Friday. So I want to make you aware of that. And then we have a question from Jennifer. She says, can we make Christmas cards for the veterans? Absolutely. I think that's a great idea, and we would love to partner with you to do that. So just feel free to reach out to us, Jennifer. You can call my office and talk to Lynn at 815-933-0500 and let her know, and our team will follow up with you to do that. Thank you for that idea. Mitchell and both Wanda said great information. Okay. So I think those are all the updates I have for now. Okay. All right. We are going to get on to a very special guest. Patricia lives in our 2nd ward. And how long have you been here in the community, Patricia?
For 5 years, Mayor.
Okay, 5 years. And she's the kind of resident that you want to move in your city because she moved in and she rolled up her sleeves and said, how can I help? And a lot of times you'll see her out at different events in the community when we've been able to gather, particularly helping our Latinx community members navigate different systems as they learn to understand how things work. And she's been a really big help and a trusted person in the community for that. So we're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving, and we know that it's a big holiday in the United States. I have some personal feelings about Thanksgiving, of all of the hoopla around Thanksgiving, but in the United States, many people do celebrate Thanksgiving with turkey and mashed potatoes. That's kind of the staple thing when you talk about Thanksgiving holiday. So we understand that some Latinx communities may do this as well. They may celebrate with turkey and dressing and those common items that we hear about. But there are also some other traditions that the Latinx community celebrates during this time of year. So can you tell us some information about those traditions for some of our families?
Sure, yes. Thank you, Mayor, for, first of all, recognizing the diversity within our community, right? We are all Kankakee, and so one of the things that today we'll be discussing is actually highlighting, one side of Thanksgiving, if you will. It's highlighting a lot of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, right? And by the Americas, I do mean North, Central, and South America, including places like Puerto Rico. And so the Latinx community, it's not just one, but there are many similarities amongst us, right? And so Thanksgiving is something that for many immigrant families is maybe new to us. And there was a point where my family and I tried to make a turkey, and I know it wasn't the best, but we take advantage of the holiday. We kind of maybe make it our own. And for many of us, we embrace the time with our families, right. And we try to connect things to faith at times, right? Mm-hmm. And so in my particular family, we try to get together, we celebrate, we thank God for the opportunity to live another year, to be together, and food and family and music are always together. So today I'll have 2 out of those 3 items for you, if that's okay.
Okay. All right.
So for Thanksgiving, it allows us to begin to prepare for the holidays. You will see a lot of our neighbors are using this weekend to decorate for Christmas, to decorate their homes for Christmas. And then some of us like to start with some very seasonal food. So there are 2 very traditional seasonal foods for the holidays. I will talk about one of them because it stems more outside of into the larger Latinx community, right? So if you're talking about Mexicans in particular, which are the highest demographic within the Latinx community, we can talk about tacos, we can talk about pozole, right? Many other things, but tamales, which is what we'll be discussing tonight, is something that you can find throughout the Americas, and it stems over 5,000 years in history. So today's conversation will be around tamales, and hopefully some of you watching will want to try this at home with your family and make it your own as well.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the term Latinx. That's a newer term that we've been using. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So when we talk about the communities that are maybe of Central, South America, and including the U.S. as well at times, those of us who maybe had the Spaniards or the Portuguese that came to invade, we have some commonalities, and those communities in the 1970s, because the United States wanted to identify all of these people that have something at times maybe Spanish at common, they gave us the title Hispanic. And that was very popular until maybe the 90s, when the community said, especially the academic community said, well, we're not only honoring the Spanish that came and conquered us, we also have African and indigenous histories. And so then we came to embrace the term Latino or Latina, because everything in Spanish is gendered as he or she. So Latino for male and Latina for female. Now, fast forward, as we try to move into more inclusive days, we've embraced the term Latinx. The X at the end symbolizes non-gender, right? So we want to make sure that as we are inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community, we're not having to say he or she, so that we understand we're talking about this larger community, and that's why today's best practice is Latinx.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to get into some conversations about food. Corn.
Yes.
Corn is prevalent in the Americas. Can you talk a little bit about corn?
Yes. So in the indigenous traditions, particularly of Central and South America, which includes Mexico, before the Spaniards came, we had the indigenous traditions and we had different gods, right? And so we believed, or the people back then believed, that humans were created by the gods using maize, which is corn. And so we often hear phrases like, we are people of the corn. It is a natural harvest of the area, and it is part of what the indigenous people went on to create. You will see today things like tortillas that are used in everyday meals. So instead of maybe using bread at our table, most of us use tortillas. You will see a version of corn in everything we use, and today the dough that we are using, the masa, is made out of corn as well.
Okay. And you said, did you say people of the corn?
Yes. It sounds better in Spanish. It's one of those that lost in translation.
Do you remember this movie called Children of the Corn?
Children of the Corn. I
was terrified of that movie. I did not like that movie. Okay.
Definitely a different page, Mayor. Definitely a different page.
Different thing. All right. Come back into the light. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about a recipe. What will you be sharing with us tonight?
Sure, Mayor. So tonight I'll be sharing a recipe that is a little bit of my mom and dad's family, which they're both from the state of Guanajuato, which is in the country of Mexico. It's central Guanajuato. My father is from the city of Yuriria, which we have a sister cities agreement with. And my mom is from the adjacent city of Salvatierra. So you will see that mixture of both. And you will also see a mixture of this Mexican American that does like to take some shortcuts and maybe not as spicy. So that's what I'll be showing us tonight, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. We're excited. I just got a comment here. Maya said, so excited about the cookbook. Great idea. Okay. We are having fun here in the city of Kankakee. All right. So this process can take days, right?
Yes, indeed. So I'll try not to take days in this Zoom session. So if we are going a little short on time, please, I do kindly ask that you let me know.
Okay, I think we're pretty good.
Great. So my challenge will be to put this down in paper in a recipe, but I try my best. In our culture, it's very difficult for us to write things down into recipes. For many generations, food, as with many other cultures, was passed on to the gender, right? It was grandmother teaching mother, teaching granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And so in Mexico and in many other spaces of Latin America, the women were not always applauded to continue their education because they were preparing in the home for home duties. Yeah. And maybe we saw some of that in the United States a couple of generations back as well. So a lot of it is like a pinch of this and just enough of that, or whatever we can gather through semi-potlucks, right? And so I don't know how to cook in small quantities. I love food. And so the way I gauged it was, I just prepped for 100 tamales, and that's what I usually do.
100?
So yes.
I have a big family. I have trouble cooking for just my husband and myself now too, but 100?
Well, if you think about the average person will eat between 2 to 3 tamales in a plate, right? And so how many people will be in your house? And well, let's face it, many Latinx families are a little large. And so you want to make sure that everyone has something to eat. You want to make sure that there's leftovers. Part of the party is the leftovers the next morning.
Yeah.
So, so that is what I prepped for, and I think that will help us kind of maneuver through what we're about to show you. And then we can, you can maybe fraction that, pause the video, etc. So if it's okay with you, I'll get started.
Okay, let's do it.
So we have, thank you. So we have a virtual ham. I'm sorry, not a ham. I'm trying to translate some of the materials or the ingredients into English. So feel free to chime in and correct me if I mispronounce something, please. So pork butt is the tamal that I would create today. So they're also known as the red tamales, okay? So the tamales, let's imagine I have 5 to 7 pounds of pork butt. I will take a large pot, this is a 20-quart steamer. I would use this, and the pork will be about half of it. So then you add water until 3/4 of it is full. Once you do that, you're going to put it to boil after you rinse it out. I put bay leaves. So for that 5 to 7 pounder, I will put at least 3 large leaves and a couple of pepper, like salt and pepper, the full pepper, and salt to taste. I will also take at least 4 garlic cloves. I believe that's what they're called. In Spanish, we call them garlic teeth because they look like teeth. And then you will let that boil until everything is ready to fall off the bone. Okay? You want to let that cool because eventually you want it to kind of be ready for you to shred. And we do use our hands in Latinx culture when we're cooking. So you want it to have, and I know we're on Zoom, so maybe it's not showing very well, but you want it to be able to be soft enough where you're separating some things around, okay? So while that is going on, you also want to take your peppers and put them to boil. So I will show you what kind of peppers I use. So this pepper here is called Chile California. I know it as Chile Guajillo, but probably California is easier for some folks to pronounce. So you can find this actually at the local Jewel and many of the local family-owned businesses as well. It's very common, and these are dry chilies. So you will take, or I take, some people may want something that's a little less spicy. By the way, I don't need as much spiciness as my family does, like I mentioned earlier. 1 handful, 2 handfuls, 3 handfuls, which is really about 12 to 14 of these dried peppers. And you will also take what we call Chile Ancho. So you will actually see I purchased this at one of the local grocers as well, family-owned business. And you will take 4 of these, okay? So these are really just poblano peppers that are sun-dried. These are all sun-dried, very earthy, okay? Some people, if this is your first time using peppers, you may want to use gloves. Now, what you can do is I like to put it in water, rinse them off, and then you can also take the little top off.
The stem.
Okay? The stem, thank you. I like to leave the seeds in there. I think it gives it some flavor, but again, if you don't like spiciness, once you take off the stem, you shake it out and get the seeds out. That'll prevent it from being very spicy. So you leave that boiling, and what I suggest is that you do not use a regular lid because we're hydrating these, but they're still not heavy. So what I tend to do, little family trick, is put a heavy china plate over it. Just make sure to supervise it because the water will try to come down and you don't want your fire. By the way, this needs to be over fire, not electric stove it doesn't really work on electric stoves. Maybe I just need to keep trying. But so you don't want the fire to go out and just have the gas running, of course, just in terms of safety. So while all of that is boiling for you, you will take the corn husk. So the corn husk is sold in bags like this. And they are the cover or the leaves around the corn. They've been dried, and so they're no longer green. And you can find these at pretty much every supermarket. Again, I got this at Jewel as they just opened. I purchased these yesterday, actually. So what you will do is you open it up and you will see that these leaves are like thin as paper. They're a little frail, but they're kind of
flexible.
Yes. So you want them to be much more flexible. What you will do is you will rinse all of this in lukewarm water. Be super careful because it may rip very easily and you don't want them to rip. So you will put them in warm water. You will remove any dirty, little hairs from the corn. And sometimes it being nature, there might be little insects, from the field. So make sure you rinse that out. There may also be a couple of corn husks that have little patches of black or darkness. You don't want that. That's some sort of fungus that started growing on that corn and you don't want that. But I do like to maybe cut that piece off and save the rest of it for later. I'll show you a trick that you can use with that as well. So all of that is simmering, cooking, boiling. Your leaves are getting ready. And the first thing that's going to be ready for you now are your peppers again. So let's pretend that these peppers are now hydrated. They have water. They're softer. You're going to take your blender. Grant you that maybe we didn't have blenders 7,000 years ago, but all of this has evolved. You will take all of this. Remember, we don't have the stem. You will put it in the blender, maybe not with your bare hands, at least the first time you try. You want it to be cool. You will put it in there. You won't put all of them at once, but you will put about 1/3 of chiles into the blender and another 1/3 of water. You will take another garlic clove and you will take salt to taste, or just a pinch, if you will. So you will put that in the blender. Once it's done, you're going to, Mayor, what is this called? Sifting? To sift it?
Like a colander, a strainer.
A strainer, thank you. So you will take the strainer, you will take a brand new pot. You will take the strainer and you will take your chili sauce into this new pot. Some people like to add a little bit of oil. You will learn very quickly why I choose not to add any more fattening to this, okay? So the goal is for you to have a sauce of this consistency. It's very watery and that's okay. Now this color, you have to be careful because as you know, many of cosmetics and many things that have that we paint with are coming from nature. And so if this goes into your white countertops, it might not come off, okay? So you have that sauce and you're going to want to put that sauce to simmer. So some of the water will evaporate. And once it's simmering, it's cooking, that's when it's ready for you to add that shredded pork. Now, the quantity of pork that I used, which was between 5 and 7 pounds, it did take about 5 hours for it to be ready. And if all of the windows in your house are not fogged up, you're not doing it right. So, we have the sauce, we have the pork, you're going to mix it all, and then you're going to have this pasty product. It may not look as good right now. Imagine it's shredded pork, instead of barbecue, it's chili sauce. I think we've seen things like that before. So now we get to the dough. In old times, and actually maybe how my aunts, my tias made it, was you take the corn itself, the kernels, those get dried out in the sun, and then you take volcanic rock and you go like this to grind it and becomes a dust. And then you add ingredients like most families probably still do this. They take pork lard, vegetable lard, some chicken stock, and you start mixing it along with a couple other spices, right? And then you get the masa. The masa is the dough, okay? Now, because I was born here and I don't have that time.
I'll say this is a lot of time, Patricia.
It is. For many families, it does take about 3 days to prepare this. When I make this, I start very early because one thing my mom taught me was with pork, you don't want to reheat it, and you have to be very careful. So it tends to be more of a Christmas thing, because for Christmas, most of us do celebrate the 24th into the 25th, so we're up all night. And so if you start in the morning with tamales, maybe have a little bit of eggnog in between, you're going to be ready for tamales late night. So this is the brand that I use. They sell it locally as well. And it's a Chicago-based family-owned company that my aunts are okay in using. So they started to use this, okay? This tub will give you about 100 tamales, and it's a 5-pounder. So what you're going to do is, remember you had your corn husk already in water, so you don't want them to spill any more water. A corn husk has two sides. One that has the little ridges, and the other one, you can see the ridges, but it's smoother. So you're going to take the smooth side and put it up. That's where you're going to put your masa. So imagine that your corn husk is like a little Barbie dress. That's how I imagine. And so this is the waist of the little Barbie, right? So you want the waist to be facing you. And you want the heart or the center of the leaf to be in the center of your palm. Okay?
Yeah.
So I will take a larger one because it's always easier to do it larger. So in today's world, some people will use a mixer to mix all of the masa. Some of us will use this. So you would take a spoon, and instead of like scooping it up, you will use the back of the spoon, okay? Take the back of the spoon, and you're going to center and then out with the masa. I'm putting lots of masa so that we can see it through Zoom.
It looks good.
Good, okay, great.
Yeah.
And so center of the leaf outward. Okay?
Okay.
And then you're going to take your filling. Now, some people make this out of chicken and green sauce as well. Not too much. I like them pretty filling, lots of filling. And then you're going to just simply wrap it like it's a tortilla. So remember I said from the palm out, because what you're going to do with the old Barbie's waist, is you're going to fold that in like a burrito. Okay? So there's one tamal ready to be cooked. Now, when you're doing tamales, you will see that sometimes you get little tiny pieces like this. You can't make a tamal out of this. So when they're wet and they're flexible, this is where you will see some people making a little bow and then having them look like this.
Okay.
Now, in places like Puerto Rico or some Caribbean spaces, families don't always use corn husk. They will use banana leaves. So they may look a little different and taste just a little different as well. So what you will do is you will take your pot again. These pots, you can see, have a little line here. So you want this to be filled with water, and then it has a special divider, okay, inside of it. And so you will stack these up standing on top of that divider. You don't want them to go into the water, of course. And this is a 20-quart, we call them vaporeras pots. And this should fit about 70 to 100 tamales, okay? And then one of the tricks, because you're going to put this to boil, right? You want the vapors to be what is cooking the tamales. One of the tricks that one of my aunts taught me was to put, every family has its own tricks, put a penny or any sort of a nickel, a dime, in the bottom of the pot, because you don't want the pot to run out of water, right? So you will hear the penny with the boiling, shaking and moving. When you no longer hear it, that's when you know we ran out of water, we better turn it off. Okay? So the fun part and the family part is to try to do this for as many as at least 100 tamales, right? So this, when you're putting your tamales together, that's usually when every family member comes in, right? To spread the masa, or maybe some, it's grandma that starts mixing the dough with her hands, and then mom starts doing that, right? And it's very special for us in that it tends to be, or traditionally it was the females that were putting their love, their strength into making this masa by hand before these mixers, right? And so it was always known, or a tradition was, if they came out a little too salty or a little too spicy, that was the energy of the cook. Maybe they were mad, right? Maybe they didn't want to do it. And so we believe that we're feeding your soul because we're putting our soul into this when we share tamales with folks. So when the water runs out, it's definitely a time to turn it off. However, most pots like this, in an hour and 10 at most, sometimes as quick as 45 minutes, you will have your tamales ready. Now be careful with the steam when you open it up, but your tamales should come out looking like this. And maybe this is what we've seen at the stores. I'm using my hands just as a quick visual. And there you have red pork tamales, Patricia style, which is a little bit of Guanajuato and a little bit of Mexican American convenience.
Very good. That's a lot of work.
It is. It really is.
There's a movie that comes to my mind called Soul Food. Did you ever see this movie?
Yes, of course.
So in a lot of African American culture, we would do like a Sunday dinner, and your grandmother or mother would cook a big meal on Sunday, usually after church. And so in our culture, a lot of times that's how we show people we love them is, a lot of times if you go to somebody's house, they're going to feed you. Like, even if they don't have a lot of money, they want you to have something. They want to feed you something. So when I think about, showing love to people by feeding them, the fact that people spent 3 days literally making this really speaks to the love that these women have for their families.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It is definitely something that many of our cultures have in common, right?
Yes.
And so, yes, when someone invites you over to their home, it is bringing you into their hearts. When someone offers you something that they've been preparing especially for so long, then it is definitely a way to demonstrate love, to share my soul with yours. And so if someone were to come and share them out with you, even if it's not of your preference, I would highly recommend that you at least acknowledge the hard work that people have put together and what they are offering you, the importance of what they are offering.
The effort.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
So what are some of the most common mistakes that you see for people when they try to eat tamales for the first time? I probably would be one of these people because I don't eat them, and so I probably would do something incorrectly.
That's okay. Just as I'm sure when I try to make that turkey that one time, when no one took any leftovers home, we all have things that we're learning, right? So one of the things that some of my friends, maybe when I tried to do this for them when I was in college and sharing different experiences with folks, is they didn't know to take this off before eating the tamal.
Okay.
And so you will even see that in some of the Hollywood movies when like there's culture clashing and people don't tell someone to take this off. So you always want to make sure to take this off, and you always want to say thank you for the food. Even if this is not of your preference, you always want to say thank you and receive it. Not receiving it is a bit of offensive, given what people is trying to give you. And then the last one is, and I think we discussed this a little bit earlier, Mayor, is that when people say they're vegetarian, It's very difficult to find tamales that are vegetarian.
So that's not something that's common.
It's not common today. Now, the indigenous people didn't have pork, maybe, or the chicken as we know it. I'm not a historian, so I don't know how far back we started to use those. I know it's definitely when the Spaniards came in 1492. After 1492, we started to incorporate some of that. But in some spaces, we do have the fillings be vegetarian. So like chili with cheese or bean filling. However, we just have to make sure that when we're making the masa, that we're not using lard made out of animal fat, but that we're only using vegetable fat. Okay. And so that's the trick in knowing when and how something is vegetarian.
Okay. So we know a lot of our Latinx families are large, like you mentioned earlier. So how many people would it take to make a pot full of tamales? So we're talking about 75 to 100. How many people would that take?
I would say a good 3 or 4 people. So my poor hubby was helping me out through this process. Ricardo was very instrumental in going with me to the store, carrying the big pot from the stove to different spaces. And when I'm tired of making the fillings, he's helping me maybe to rinse the leaves, right? The husk. This is something that often is given to the children. They can start by cleaning these out.
Okay.
And the fillings is like at least 4 people at the table, putting the masa on the leaf and then the filling and wrapping it up.
Okay, so it's really a family activity.
It really is. It really is.
Okay. How many hours? If you have 4 people and you want to make a pot, is that going to be? Well, you said the pork was 5 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's say I wanted to do this all in one day, or when I have done this for Christmas Eve, or sometimes now Thanksgiving. I've started putting things to boil like at 7, 8 in the morning, and then I'm ready to go out to the family gathering at about 7, 8 p.m. That's for 100. It's obviously larger quantities. It takes a little longer, just
right.
One blender, right? But if you wanted to shorten that to 50 or less than that, then you can shorten just by a little bit. So
okay.
At least 12 hours.
Wow. That's a lot of work.
It is. And many families, one thing, Mayor, is that when there's a need, a lot of people will do like giveaways or raffles, right? And so what many families do as well is they offer to make tamales as fundraisers. These are usually sold in half dozen or 1 dozen. And so imagine the energy and the commitment to help someone when they are offering to make tamales as a fundraiser. Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot. Now, do you serve anything with it? Is that the meal, or is there a side dish, or?
In the ones that I showed us today, it is the main entree, if you will. In different spaces, for example, last year or 2 years ago, I know I even put it on my social media, I was making the sweet kinds of tamales, which are with sometimes strawberry, coconut, raisins, and those could be eaten as a dessert, but they could also be eaten as the main entree. Now, in different parts of the world, or of the Americas, instead of having a filling, they will make corundas, which will be this small, about half of the tamal, and no filling. And they will add that to a pork stew. In other spaces, they will add sour cream to this. Not in my family, but in some places, they will add sour cream to this on top.
Okay. So you said a dessert. So the dessert one, is that made out of corn as well? The masa?
It is. I know it's kind of like hard to think.
Corn and strawberries.
Yeah. Think about cornbread, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's a strawberry. Today, it's not as much as strawberry that's in it. It's just the food coloring. That way, if you put 50 tamales out of pork or chicken and then 50 sweet, you know which ones, the red ones or the pink ones, are the sweet kind.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Let me see if we have any questions from the audience. I think people are really excited about this. I don't think I see anything. Okay. I know some people said they were going to be taking notes tonight, so. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us the tradition, the culture, the love. And I think I'm going to be making some tamales with you. I want to learn how to do it. It's exciting. And it just helps us connect. Food is a great way for us to connect, no matter what our backgrounds are, whatever the diversity is in the community. It's just a great way for everybody to connect. So I think it'll be fun.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing the platform for us to share our family values and our experiences, and just maybe allowing our neighbors to see a little bit of what goes into and the importance of different meals, especially for the holidays.
Yeah, thank you. So I just have a couple things before we end. I want to just remind everyone that we are going to be starting a holiday food drive. I do a couple of food drives every year. With COVID, we do have families that are experiencing food insecurity. Our school district has done a really good job. They have a truck now, a food truck, which is really exciting. And they've been providing meals to the kids since the pandemic started. But I wanted to make sure that we do another collection of food, non-perishable items for KCCSI, which is located on Court Street, Kankakee County Community Services Incorporated. They are the only anti-poverty organization in Kankakee County. So families from all over the county benefit. They have a pantry, and we're going to start collecting non-perishable items that you'll find bins in both the public safety building and the administrative building over on Indiana. So if you go to the store, you can pick up a couple cans, rice, beans, different things like that. It'll be helpful for our families. And then I just wanted to remind everyone that we are on Zoom for everything, so we keep each other safe. So our next Kankakee Chats will be on December 31st. We do this on the last Thursday of the month at 7:30 p.m. unless we specify differently. But we will be here December 31st. And then I wanted to mention that my Mingle with the Mayor, I do that once a month. That's an event that I hold in the community from 11:30 to 1 p.m. at a local business. Again, because of the pandemic, I'm doing it virtually. So you can log in, we'll have information, it'll be on Zoom. You'll be in a waiting room until you're let in to speak with me, and you'll have the same privacy where you can have a conversation with me one-on-one. That one is scheduled, Mingle with the Mayor, for Saturday, December 19th. And again, that's from 11:30 to 1 p.m. and that will be on Zoom. I don't have anything else. Patricia, you have anything?
I don't, but I just want to wish folks happy holiday over, the Thanksgiving break, and applaud you in whatever your beliefs are. And I did make 30 tamales, so maybe the first two families that send me a message on my Facebook, if that's okay, Mayor?
Yeah.
I will be glad to share, because Ricardo and I don't need 30 tamales.
Okay, guys, so that's a special treat, a surprise. So Patricia has 30 tamales, and the first two people that respond to her Facebook post, she will have a little package for you to enjoy. So again, we want to thank you, Patricia, for joining us tonight, for sharing your culture and your experiences. And we look forward to seeing you all next month on December 31st, which is the Thursday evening at 7:30. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at the City of Kankakee. My office phone number is 815-933-0500. You can see our meetings on the Comcast Channel 4, which is the government access channel, the YouTube channel we have for the City of Kankakee, and our website. We live stream. So we want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season with their families. Be safe, be well. We will be closed Thursday and Friday of this week, but we'll be back next week on Monday. Take care.